Welcome to The Vault at 201 North Broadway, podcast for innovators and problem solvers talking all things small business, entrepreneurship, and workforce development.
Ladies and gentlemen, get ready to be inspired by an incredible entrepreneur who turned her passion for locally raised meats into a sizzling success story. Our guest today is none other than the dynamic force behind High Five Meats, Sara Hollenbeck, the Sheep Lady.
The Sheep Lady.
Thank you to the Small Business Development Center for sponsoring The Vault at 201 North Broadway. The Small Business Development Center provides you with free one-on-one counseling, business plan assistance, marketing research, financial projection assistance, and more to small businesses.
Welcome, Sara.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
We're excited to have you on today.
Hey, anytime I get to talk about sheep and lamb,
I'm excited. I can't wait.
Sign me up. I should have brought you guys like samples or something. Jeez, that was rude of me.
We can come out.
Okay. So
and we can
tour it up.
Play.
Yeah. Anytime. It's better in spring when there's babies lambs bouncing all over the place.
Yeah,
that's true.
Cute.
Well, we are going to jump right in here.
Sounds good.
And my first question for you is, are you from Montana?
No. But you know what? I've been here over 10 years now. So someone told me as long as I've been here over 10 years, I can consider myself a Montanan.
I would agree with that. As a person who has been here for over 20 years, I also agree. 10 years is a good sweet spot.
I'm sure natives would think otherwise. You got to be born and raised. But dang it, I just won't tell you what state I'm from because then I'll really get
from
kicked out.
California?
I'm from California.
That's okay. We've had someone else on here from California.
Northern California, which is
different,
a little less invasive, I guess, but
it's got mountains.
It's got mountains, lakes. It's conservative areas.
Yeah, I was just about to say Napa.
Yes. So no, I grew up in Kansas till I was 6. My family moved to California. My mom was actually an ag teacher, so she got a job teaching at a high school in Northern California. So we moved out there. My grandparents had a fencing business out there, so we kind of made that home for a while.
Marcell's family's a fencing business too.
Really? Mm-hmm. Crazy.
You'll talk fence.
Yeah. So then I went to college, Cal Poly, San Luis Obispo, beautiful area on the Central Coast. Ended up working for my grandparents because I got a job offer from, basically, it was like a very big fruit company, and I would have had to have worn a hard hat every day. And I was like, you know what? That just doesn't sound like living to me. So I turned it down, which was probably dumb at the time because I was 22 and graduated in 2008 when no one could get jobs out of college. So I went to work for my family, which was also a terrible idea, but gave me lots of experience. Family businesses are hard. Found myself in one all over again now, but they're great. So yeah, I worked for them for a year, and then I worked in the Central Valley working for a very large commercial nursery company. We sold grapevines, nut trees, everything Montana doesn't grow, pretty much.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to grow a grapevine right now. Yeah.
Good luck with that.
My neighbor does really well.
Does she put blankets on it all winter long and have a personal heater out there? Like,
no, she just lets it. I think she just lets it
go
go
dormant. But still, I feel like the dormant season's not. It's too long here. But
yeah, it could be
littler grapes, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. She makes a whole bunch of grape jelly out of hers.
Oh,
just like tons of grape jelly.
Nice.
So
now you got to be up in her ante.
Well, I don't have as many, but I do have one.
Kayla's like, I have a bundle of grapes.
I've also been trying to grow artichokes, and it's just it's not working.
I grew okra once, which was a different,
I tried. Mine all died.
I was like, oh, I'll plant like maybe one. No, I had like rows, and I'm like, what do I do with okra? Because I was young, high school, and anyways.
Yeah.
Tell us more. You were
sorry to get on
nursery.
A great tangent.
Yeah. So I met my husband in a weird way, and I had never even been to Montana before. So I got the crazy idea that I needed to come visit him after we'd talked for like 6 months. And everyone kept telling me like, oh, when are you going to go visit that nice sheep rancher from Montana? I'm like, you all are insane. Like, I'm not going to Montana. And then I did. And then now I'm here. So it all worked out.
I did. And now
but
I'm
it was
here.
kind of a crazy move. A lot of my friends thought I was insane. And, I thought it was a little insane. But what's life, Take the chance.
Yeah. You only get one.
You only get one. So I took the chance and as happy as can be. And now I live in Molt, Montana.
Good old Molt.
Raising sheep.
What a trend. So what was that like coming here from California? And then, I'm sure there's some other things that visiting, but like once you moved here.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up with an ag background and I'd been around livestock and done that whole thing, but it's different when you're like submerged in a commercial ranching atmosphere. So I knew I just needed to like live out here for a year to like fully understand all the seasons of everything and everything that changes on the ranch.
And then
month
you
to
learn
month.
that every year the seasons are
And
completely
then every
different.
year is yes, exactly. So I remember, and my husband would not propose until I survived through a Montana winter and a lambing season because
That's
he was
really
just
funny.
convinced there's no way this chick's gonna want to stay out here. Like, she must be insane. And lucky for him, I am insane. So the lambing season, I remember I kind of took all the bum lambs under my wing because it was like the one thing that I could like do and figure out and troubleshoot. And then I just cried every time one died. And that was really hard, but it was like my thing. So I enjoyed that. I was still working in town too, which was also a pain in the butt because driving into town every day can get
And in the winter.
annoying. And then in the winter, I got stuck in the driveway multiple times and was like, what am I doing? And then, we just kind of made it through the seasons. We made it through a rough few months of winter. And that winter was actually one of the worst ones I think I've ever experienced since moving here. But I just kept trudging forward. And I knew I didn't want to work in town forever. I knew I wanted to be my own boss or somehow be implemented with the ranch, but like still doing my own thing. So I remember when I left California, I knew this crazy rancher that was starting to sell his meat direct to people. And that was like 15, 16, 17 years ago. And at the time, that was kind of like newish. Not a lot of people were doing it. And so I was like, gosh, we have really good meat. We have cattle. We have sheep. Like, why don't I try and do something like that? And in California, you go to a restaurant and every ingredient says where it's from.
Lovely.
And here at the time, that wasn't really a thing. And so I knew it was probably going to catch on eventually. I always say nicely, Montanans, you're a little behind with trends of the world.
We are, yeah. And sometimes it's nice and sometimes it's like kind of,
Yeah. But you'll go to like a big city and see something crazy and just know that it's going to be trendy where you live in 10 years.
Yeah.
I was just
In a while.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I started trying to like immerse myself in the local food scene. It wasn't a very big one. There was one group, Yellowstone Valley Citizens Council. I think they still meet too. They met once a month and I'd go to their meetings and be like, hi, I'm a rancher. I'm interested in selling meat, just trying to get a feel for if this is even a option to do around here. And then I went to a Women's Stepping Forward for Ag conference, and they had the chef at the time from the Northern was Tim Freeman, and he spoke. And he said, I remember this older woman sitting in the front, older rancher lady, and she was like, why don't you use our products? And he's like, have any of you ever come into the restaurant and asked me to buy your products? And we're all like, no. And he's like, well, I don't know.
How
what
do
you
I
have
know?
for sale.
Yeah.
And as simple as that was, a light bulb went off. And I was like, oh, duh. Like, I don't have to process any animals yet. I can just go see what the interest is. And so I remember the next week I made like a cute little brochure and went and saw him, and he was so nice. And he's like, yeah, bring me one next week. I was like, oh my gosh, this is happening.
Yeah.
So that's how it all started, was just the support of one chef pushing me to be like, yeah, we'll put your lamb on the menu. So then I started working with local processors and quickly realized like everyone doesn't love lamb, and I was kind of disappointed by that. But
I'm always
been,
surprised.
One of my goals my whole career has just been to make people eat lamb, whether they just try it or buy something from us. I like just try it, because the
It's
lamb
so good
consumption,
when it's prepared well.
yeah.
the lamb consumption in this country is so small compared to other proteins, and then you compare it to other people in other countries that eat a tremendous amount of lamb and goat. So it's always been my goal just to get people to eat more lamb. And then with that, I started selling our beef as well, because everybody loves beef, especially Montanans, which I do too, love beef. So I was trying to do it like these combo packages, and I would get some pork from the neighbors. And that's kind of how High Five Meats was born, and then ended up really getting involved with the Yellowstone Valley Food Hub. Thank you. Wow. I was a founding member of that. It took a couple years to get that going. It was myself and about 9 other producers, and now it's I like to say flourishing.
Yes, I would give that word too.
And it embodies the concept of community, because like one of my biggest competitors has become one of my best friends through that, Annika Charter-Williams. Yeah. She sells her family beef, and we're constantly just like, what are you pushing this week? What are you pushing this week? And it's not about who's going to sell more, because it's us against them. It's us against the big guys. We're all on the same team, us little guys. We're trying to make a difference in this crazy food world, this crazy food industry. And it's been awesome. I've gotten to know so many great local producers. The quality of the food is just impeccable, outstanding. I mean, I'm extremely biased, but I'm also a customer. I buy everything full price as a good old boy customer every week because I'm just so excited, especially when we got cherries.
Oh, yeah. I totally missed it. For some odd reason, I thought yesterday was Tuesday.
So we missed
the cutoff, but I wanted to get the pie cherries.
Okay, what is with pie cherries? Why do people love pie cherries so much versus like a flathead cherry?
Well, I would freeze them for pies. Like I would pit them and freeze them for pies.
I've done that with flathead
because they're
cherries.
more tart. Oh. So then when you add the sugar to them.
Because like we did have some pie cherries from Boja Farms in Bridger, and people were like losing their minds. And I'm like, why wouldn't you want the flathead ones?
Because they're just too tart.
Interesting.
So that's why cherry pies are made with tart cherries. Gotcha. Because when you add the sugar, they're not like too sweet. They're perfect.
So as a founding member of the Yellowstone Valley Food Hub, which has been mentioned quite a bit on this podcast so far, and we, like quite a bit in some of our episodes, can you tell us like how that was founded and that whole process? Because to me, it's interesting because you all come together. How did you know to come together? Like just walk us through that.
Yeah, I wish I could remember the guy's name. There was a guy speaking at the library. I think it was like 2018 or something like that. And his whole talk was about creating local food groups of some sort, whether it's a co-op or not, some sort of like local food system. And I remember there was a lot of us there, and we kind of like congregated afterwards and just discussed like, oh, what do you sell? What do you sell? And a lot of everybody was kind of like dabbling in the direct to consumer market, but was either running into issues of delivery, marketing, getting more sales, all the conflicts that come with starting your own business. So we were like, well, let's start having some meetings. Northern Plains was a big supporter from the very beginning. They let us have meetings in their rooms all the time. They also had someone that worked at Northern Plains, was kind of like a facilitator to help us like get organized. They helped us get a grant actually to get a Canadian company that focuses on business plans for food hubs or local food systems. And so we were able to get a business plan or business study.
Okay. Like a feasibility study?
A feasibility study. They came down, these two guys, and interviewed everybody and put together this huge business plan, feasibility study, the whole 9 yards. And also like phases.
Yeah.
Of like how to start, what your next phase would be, potentially what your next phase would be, and potentially like avenues you guys need to go down in order to maintain revenue, essentially. And so that was really interesting. I was glad that at the time I'm like, I don't need somebody telling me what to do. We can figure this out. But in the end, it was actually really nice. And we still refer back to that business plan from time to time of like, what did they say phase 3 was going to be? Like, should we be looking at that right now?
What is it?
So that was great. And at the time, there wasn't very many of us. I think there was 9, if I remember correctly. And we also had to decide how we were going to incorporate, if we were going to be a nonprofit, a co-op, et cetera, et cetera. We had Jan Tusik.
Oh, yes, with Mission Mountain.
With Mission Mountain. She's like a food co-op expertise.
She is a genius when it comes to food businesses.
Yeah, she knows everything.
My goal is to be a Jan one day.
I say the same thing. She's so cool.
She is so cool.
So she had come down and gave us some great advice. We also had a guy out of Colorado that was a founding member of a co-op down there. All he said was, pay for my plane ticket. I'll come up and talk to you guys.
Oh, awesome.
He came up. I wish I could remember his name off the top of my head. He came up and talked to us for a whole day, like just stayed for the whole day. And he was great. He's like, these are problems you're going to run into. This is how we incorporate it. And so it was a lot of meetings over the course, I think, of 2 years before we finally incorporated in 2019.
As a co-op.
As a agricultural marketing co-op.
So one thing I just want to mention, or touch base on for our listeners who maybe don't understand what a co-op is. So I have the actual definition I'm going to read off, and then you can say, here's what I actually feel it is. Cooperatives are business owned by member owners. Co-ops are democratically controlled by their member owners, and unlike traditional business, each member gets a voice in how the business is run. Services or goods provided by the co-op benefit and serve the member owners.
That sums it up pretty dang well. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Kayla.
Yeah, I just, because there's some people who are like, what is a co-op? Or maybe they've seen the words, but they don't understand what it actually is. So it's a group of individuals with a common mission that get together and they make stuff happen.
Yeah, and we hired a general manager. We just hired I think she's the third one we've had. And so we have one general manager, and then we have a couple part-time people doing deliveries and just helping out at the warehouse. We started literally like in a parking lot, and now we have so much stuff to aggregate. We were able to rent a warehouse out on the West End, which has just been amazing to have our own space. We were downtown at one point in like a back alley of a back room of somebody's, and it was so hard with deliveries and getting everybody's stuff dropped off. So it was so nice to get some more space and our own spot. Now we have a couple pickup spots around town, and
you have your own store now.
We have our own store now. It's open on Fridays, and that's been great too. Yeah. It's been fun. It's been interesting. And just like any new business, there's trials and tribulations and like, oh my God, what are we doing?
Yeah.
That happens all the time. And it's a forever growth process, I think. Especially, we're only in year 3 or 4 at this point. And it's fun. It's interesting.
So you had 9 initial founding members.
Yes.
How many do
we're
you
up
have?
to like, I want to say 15 or 16. But then we have a lot of non-member producers that we buy things from.
Oh, okay.
And sell through the hub, but they're not technically considered members.
Oh, okay.
They got to go through some hoops before you can be a member. But there's also just people that sell, like Becky's Berries.
Yep.
She doesn't necessarily need to be a member producer, but we're going to buy her stuff and sell it
because
anyways.
it's a value add for your consumers.
Right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
There's also like places, Conservation Grains.
Oh,
they're up on the High Line. So they're not technically like in our
region.
Direct vicinity. And they don't have, it wouldn't benefit them to actually be a member producer because they would never be able to come to anything. And so we just buy stuff from them and sell their flour, and it's great.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So you mentioned High Fives. Where did that name come from?
So when I started that business, I was like, oh my God, I have to name it.
Yeah.
How do you name a business?
It's like naming a
so
kid.
hard.
I would assume I have neither, but I would assume it's difficult.
So
like
I
that.
played around with like 406, Big Sky, like doing all the Montana and stuff. And I'm like, gosh, I just feel like it's a little bit overplayed, or like somebody else probably already has it, or, so I don't know. It was probably a couple weeks of starting the business, and you have to get your stuff all incorporated to even start doing anything. So I'm like, okay, you need to name this business already. And
I've got to register.
One of my drives home, which is when I do a lot of my thinking on my way into town and on my way home, when I'm without children usually, all of a sudden it came to me, high five. And I was like, I really like giving high fives. I'm like the annoying person that's always high-fiving people.
I love high-fiving people.
And I'm like, high five meets. High five meets. High five meet. Oh, that's kind of catchy. And then that's how I literally remember
like,
the turn I was on the dirt road, and that came to me. I still remember like driving and being like, ding.
Did you run home and you're like, Henry, I've got it?
Well, I was like, I came up with a name. I don't know how you're going to feel about it because he's such an old school cowboy, I was like, he's probably going to think this is dumb. And he's like, I like it. There we go. Okay,
like,
let's
great.
not look back. Let's move forward.
I'm registering right now.
Now.
If you have a thought,
I need it done.
right now.
Well, and I feel like it could be like a fun logo too, with like the hand and.
Yeah, it is.
That.
You did really good on your logo.
Thank you.
I like
amateur
high five
hour.
meets.
Yeah.
I traced my hand. No, I'm kidding.
My hand, not someone else's.
Well, one thing I know you're really passionate about is how your animals are raised.
Yes.
And you pay attention to a lot of different factors, including the environmental factors for your animals. Can you talk to us a little bit about how you made that decision of we're going to do it this way? Was it always that way and you came into it? Or did you go, no, I feel passionate about doing that? And then how do you control those environmental things?
Yeah. And unfortunately for Montana, we have well, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, we have insane winters. And so the breed of sheep that we use is actually like insanely cold tolerant and snow tolerant, and wool, being the amazing natural resource that it is, really provides for us to raise sheep. Like Montana used to have, like, I don't know exact numbers, a lot more sheep than
they
it does
did.
now.
Like my grandpa way back in the day, pre-World War II, sheep.
A lot of ranches, like there's one selling up in, starts with an S, where the Red Ants Pants Festival is. Why is it not?
Oh, I have
2 words. S.
This is bad. I should know.
I don't know.
White Sulphur.
White
okay,
Sulphur.
Sorry, one
okay.
S. White Sulphur. There's a huge ranch for sale up there, and it is gorgeous. And they said, like, it used to run thousands of sheep. So, long story short, sheep used to be a huge, huge animal in Montana. And for whatever reason, the numbers have really declined. But we just think that for our area and for our operation, sheep just fit. It just works.
Yeah.
Cattle obviously is very big in Montana, and we do have some cattle, but the sheep, what they eat is perfect for our landscape and what they're able to consume. And like, we send sheep out all summer to other people's ranches to work on their weeds that their cows don't eat. So we just really like sheep. We really like the breed that we have. They do great in the winter. We just think, if you love the animal you're raising, it's going to taste good.
Yeah.
They're going to be great. And it provides a happy life. Like, we love what we're doing, and we love when people come out to the ranch and see what we're doing. I know we had we did a tour a couple of years ago. I actually had to go speak at a conference in Baker, Montana. And I was like, hey, Henry, I think like 15 people or so are coming out for a tour. Can you handle that? And he's like, okay, sure. And like 60 to 100 people showed up. He said it just cars were coming. And I was like, okay, they said 15, but it was insane. And I will still see people randomly around town that are like, I was in that tour that came out to your ranch. That was amazing, because he ended up pulling a lamb that day. Oh. And so everyone's just standing there watching the miracle of birth happening. And like, that stays with you, Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was just neat. He felt really cool that he got to experience that with everyone too. And I don't know, we just really try to love what we do, and we think we're good stewards. And we have 5 Peruvians that are sheep herders for us, and we treat them like family, and we think they like working for us. And we take a lot of goodwill trips
and stuff. They're really nice. So.
They're great. Like,
yeah,
we couldn't do it without them, to be honest.
And
yeah, and they're wonderful. And yeah, we like raising sheep. It's fun. And also the other thing too that I love is during lambing season, like calving season, if a heifer's having a problem or cow's having a problem, I got to go get help. I got to go get multiple 1 to 2 people to help me either get her in, get the calf pulled, XYZ. With sheep, I'm able to go solve the problem by myself, and even with my children, and I'm not worried about them getting run over or, anything like that. And at this point, they can help do a lot of the chores with me. So
which is really nice.
Yeah, it's really nice.
I have a crazy question.
Oh, boy.
When my dad was young, he worked for a sheep herder and went out in the little sheep herder wagon. Mm-hmm. And they had to go out and herd them. Mm-hmm. Now, you said you had people working for you. Do you still have to do that?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've got 3, we call them bands. So it's like a really large flock, usually from like 800 to 1,000 ewes, we'll call a band.
Okay.
We've got one up in Three Forks, one in like the Toston area, which is kind of close to Three Forks as well, and then one down in Powderville. So we've got one guy with each band. They have a camper, a horse or 2, a couple dogs, and it's just
so the
like
wagons
the
look
days.
a little different now. They're a little bit more nicer.
Some ranchers still have those old school wagons, and they're amazing. But if you try and buy one of those, they are still so dang expensive. So we just do like a very single axle, simple camper.
And how long do they stay with them?
During the summer.
Just
so
the
summer months. So we try and get everything off of our ranch just to let everything rest. And
so do they have to, they're on their horse riding around, checking to see where they're at so they're not getting in trouble because they tend to wander away?
They'll move them to new grass areas once they've kind of depleted what's there.
Okay.
They'll move on to the next one. And all of the ranches ask us back year after year because they said the grass just comes in so much better where they've grazed. And then they'll also eat stuff that their cattle do not. So like leafy spurge is a huge invasive species in Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and cattle won't eat it. And it will literally take over rangeland, and there'll be no native grasses coming in because it's such a powerful weed, but our sheep just love it. And they eat it,
which is nice.
They have the weed control then.
Yeah, and they'll get the seed and all that, so then it doesn't recycle.
Oh, how cool. We should note that Lorene is also with us today for all those people who are going, who is that voice?
It's very neat. And you know what's really special too is sometimes I'm worried, like, man, do they like being out there in the middle of nowhere with like no one to talk to? I mean, they do have cell phones, so they talk to their families a lot. But whenever I take our guys back to the airport, they can stay for 3 years. They're on an H-2A work visa. But they usually stay about 2 years before they want to go home for a few months before they come back. But I always ask them, like, what was your favorite part about being here? And all of them always say it's during the summer months when they get to go out and with range and just herd sheep.
Really?
Yeah. And I have a couple sheep. I've met a lot of sheep people in the industry. I really enjoy getting to know other female ranchers. And there's one girl in Oregon that her herder went home, so she had to do the summer grazing. And she's like, it is the best thing ever. She's like, there's no people. You're all alone.
It's a good way to recharge.
Yeah.
Well, it isn't like you're just by yourself, silent, like nature outside.
I mean, it definitely takes a special personality for sure. It's not for everyone by any means, but she's like, it just like resets your soul. Like there's nothing like it.
Oh, how interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That is awesome. So you have quite a bundle of sheep going on over
We've
there.
got quite a few ewes. Yeah.
So you say, so you have 3 bands. And so basically like 3,000?
Essentially, yeah.
Wow.
Right around there.
That is a lot when they come back to your property.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a lot. When we wean them all, then the lambs get put into what you would call a feedlot. We're not like, it doesn't look like a token, what bad connotation when you think of a feedlot. But when we wean, we put the lambs in there. They eat feed. We get a lot of feed from local ranchers that we feed them until they're fattening size, and then we either sell them. My husband does a lot of ethnic trade to the East Coast, down to Colorado, and to the West Coast too. And then I do my little direct to marketing sales, which is like, a fraction of what we're doing, but
it makes a difference.
It's fun. We're always big on diversity, and I think any young rancher has to be. We can't do it like our grandparents used to.
Yeah.
So we're always looking for new opportunities and at least trying things out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it does, cool.
Yeah.
So at lambing season, how many people do you have around to help with that? Or do you space out lambing out over several months?
We do space it out just because it's Montana and we only have one big barn. So we run all of the ewes through the barn. So we start in April, we'll do a band, and then what we would call like a breeding cycle later, which is about 2 weeks, the next band will start. So it's just like a constant shuffle through the barn of all the ewes. Yeah. And then in May, we try to kick them out to pasture. And if it's nice weather, they can lamb out in the pasture, and we'll have a guy out there just watching to make sure everything's okay. But between my husband and I, and then we'll have 3 to 5 herders at all times that help. And it's long nights. I used to do the night lambing before I had kids, and I actually really enjoyed it because, again, you're like, it's silence. There's nobody out there but you and the animals, and you're fixing problems and making baby lambs happy and with their mothers, and it's an experience. But since I've had kids, I've gotten out of that shift. But I'll probably be back out there once the kids are a little bit older, and
maybe they'll be out there eventually.
Yes,
too.
that too. Oh yeah,
like high school age.
For sure.
Gives them something to do.
Oh, like 10.
Yeah.
You're not going to sleep tonight.
So sorry.
No, it's been great. And they love helping. And the other day, my son has always said he wants to be a race car driver. And then the other day we were driving, he's like, I changed my mind. I want to be a rancher. And my husband was like, oh my God. It was like all of his dreams were coming true. Yes. It was cute.
He's like, it's all worth it now.
Yes. It was so cute.
You mentioned something earlier, and I'm not from the ag scene. I really wish I was. But what is ethnic training?
Ethnic trade. So basically anyone that's not white that eats lamb.
Okay.
A lot of Middle East people and Mexican and Asian actually is really growing in the lamb eating.
Okay.
In America, because Caucasian people don't eat a lot of lamb, but ethnic people do. A lot of them are coming in from other countries where lamb is like the number one protein.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of ethnic traders on the East Coast that call us wanting 100 to 200. And what my husband does is he puts together a load, like a semi-load. And then in those semis, there's individual compartments. And so this semi stops at like 7 or 8 places on the way out to Pennsylvania. And the guy says, I want that load, or I want that one. Because they can't take a whole semi for their, usually their processing plants are very small. And the people buying them just take them immediately as soon as they're butchered. They'll take like the whole carcass, not just like a cut. And then they eat that for the week with their families. And that's like just normal. Very weird for us, but very normal for them. And we've done a few tours. We went down to Texas actually to an ethnic processing plant, and it was like fascinating how different it is compared to like American white people and their processing plants.
So you have had the ringer with getting your USDA with your processing facility.
Yeah.
Knowing all of the guidelines that you have to go through for like our processing, what is like some of the like startling differences that you would see with their processing facilities?
Theirs are just like in and out, wham bam. Like people will bring their backyard goat that they probably grew to eat, take it to them, they cut, butcher, hang it up. It's out the door in like an hour.
Oh, okay.
And in America, we hang everything in a freezer for a couple weeks before we even cut it up. Theirs is like instant turnaround, which is crazy to me because even their beef was like that. They don't even hang their beef very long. And then the types of animals that they like to consume are much smaller, much leaner.
Yeah.
Very different.
Which is probably easier to butcher so quickly versus
and they don't have like
beef.
The other thing that I've noticed with our Peruvians too is they don't like to use the freezer. Like the freezing things is just so not part of their culture. Probably because of like refrigeration and everything as well from where our guys are coming from. But it's so important to travel and like meet these other people and like understand why they consume things or don't consume things. And so it's always my husband, he's very Montanan. And I'm like, well, you got to get out of your bubble. Like, we got to go see things. And he's totally open-minded to
right?
it, for
like
sure.
It's turning into a target market. So you got to know you got to know your consumers.
The American consumption of lamb for like white Caucasian, it's not going up. People of ethnic backgrounds, their increase of consumption is going up. So that's who we have to market to. That's how we're going to grow as an industry. And so that's always a big topic of conversation at all of these sheep industry meetings. And it's fascinating to learn about. And I'm always like, we got to get more people in here with ethnic backgrounds. We need to learn from them and understand why and how we can be better at serving them. I mean, we keep having these like glorious lamb jams of, and they're fun and all that, but like it's not making a dent in the sales of our industry. We need to be changing the way we're doing it. And I could go into major detail, but basically like ethnic trade likes a smaller lamb. Americans butcher a larger lamb. So why don't we
do a medium lamb?
Try and just fit into what they're wanting. They're wanting the smaller lamb. Let's sell a smaller lamb.
Yeah.
Is it because it's leaner, tender?
Leaner, tender, smaller. They like them younger. They think it's a more tender meat. Yeah. And they eat a lot of goat too.
So do you have goats as well?
We do. We kind of just feed them and quickly sell them. We don't hang on to like many nanny mothers or anything like that. We did once, but goats do not do well in Montana winters. So we lambed out. We kitted out like 900 nannies once, and it was it was a show. So we're like, well, maybe not do that one again.
That does sound like a lot.
My husband will buy like smaller kids, and we'll feed them for a couple months, and then he'll resell them. That's typically how we stick with the goats. But I love baby goats. I love them.
They're fun.
They're so cute. I did a goat yoga once at
I've seen those. Last Chance?
It was at Last Chance. Yeah.
See, I've heard of that one. I've heard of the goat yoga and the kitten yoga.
Yeah. So you bring little goats with you or little kids
and they
with
like
you?
crawl
we put
on
like
people.
A snow fence up on their like beer dock so that they couldn't get out. And we brought some baby goats in. I think I even had a couple baby lambs too. And it was funny. Everyone thought we were insane, but people sold out. Yeah, it was great.
Like you're petting like little animals. They're cute. Yeah. They're soft.
I've been meaning to do it again. We did that, I think, 3 years ago, and I haven't done it since. But
Well, you let us know.
I will.
I'll put my yoga pants on for that.
I'll come. Like
I was like just running around with a paper towel in case anything peed on somebody's yoga mat, but which they did. But
but no one cares at that point. They're like,
they know what they're getting into.
If anything, it was like part of the experience. Like, oh, the goat peed on my yoga mat.
Yeah,
I'll save it forever.
Yeah,
forever.
So you have to do shearing. What do you do with your wool?
So the wool market is in the tank right now, which unfortunate. It was really good before COVID. And then when COVID happened, basically all international trade of wool just went, which all of our wool was basically going overseas.
Do you put a lot through to Australia or New Zealand?
No, because they've got a lot of their own. Okay. A lot of ours was going to China.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, it's unfortunate because it's so much more expensive than like plastic. So there are a lot of companies that are trying to use more wool, but they can get it cheaper from New Zealand or Australia, which is crazy to me. There's also a really cool new thing, wool insulation. In houses. It's significantly more expensive than traditional insulation, but people just say it's like amazing for homes. A lot of tiny homes, I guess, are using it. So I've reached out to a few insulation companies trying to like just sell it direct, but unfortunately they can still get it just so cheap from New Zealand. I don't know if it's like a subsidy or something or what is going on or their market's probably just in the dump as well. But yeah, we shear everything. We got to pay the shearers. The shearing crew comes in and we hang on to it for a little while. And then we've been taking it down to Buffalo, Wyoming lately.
Oh, okay.
And then where it goes from there is usually the Carolinas and who knows. But the prices have just been really bleak. I don't even know if it covers the cost of shearing anymore.
Oh no.
Yeah. I used to pay our like land payment on the ranch and now it's like, what are we going to do with all this stuff?
We're going to insulate your house.
Well, it takes up so much space too.
And you have to do it.
We had 2 like semi loads of wool plus a little bit on a flatbed trailer to get it down to Wyoming. Like you can't just like put that out back.
Where are you putting that? Then it gets in the elements and
so it's hard. There's a lot of like the Hellies out of Dillon. They started a clothing company as something to like.
Oh yes, I've seen some of their stuff.
Yeah, and it's amazing stuff. If you ever want to buy somebody wool clothing, I highly recommend Duckworth. And it's all Montana merino wool. It's great stuff. Great stuff.
You would think someone would come in and take that as an opportunity to do like even something simple, like really nice gloves and scarves.
The other hard part is that there's no manufacturing hardly for it. Yeah, to get it made into a textile, there's like
it's hard.
One place,
and it's on the East Coast, right?
Yeah, and I don't think that they can produce enough of it. Because I've had a ton of people reach out saying like, oh, if we can get your wool in fabric already, like in fabric. And I'm like, I wouldn't even know how to do that. And then I looked into just getting like blankets done or even wool balls. It's a huge investment to do all that. And then not even knowing if I would be able to sell it all. So it's always been something on the back burner of like, I need to figure out how I'm going to change the wool industry. But one thing at a time.
One thing at a time. We're working on
the industry.
So I just tell everybody, like, wear wool. Okay, please stop buying plastic clothing.
Hey, I use wool balls in my dryer.
Me too.
They're the best. Marcell turned them on, turned me on to them, and I just love them. I just put some essential oils on them, and off they go. I have 5 in there now.
What's your scent of choice?
Right now, it's a mandarin ginger.
Ooh.
Yeah. I had a lavender bergamot like before, but I moved to this mandarin ginger.
Yeah.
So. I should do that.
I'll do the lavender when I think about it, but usually I'm just
getting it in there. It just beats the clothes up so nice.
It does. It's so
dries
fluffy.
them faster.
Fluffy. So we know you're really busy having a ranch, doing that food hub. What do you do for fun? And you have kids. So
I do have
busy.
2 small children. Yes, they do take quite a bit of our time, but they're great. They've been in rodeo lately, so I've been like rodeo mom lately, but something I've recently gotten into is I've been really working out a lot lately, and it's been like the greatest anxiety stress reducer I've found in my life. So I've been loving that.
I love that.
And then I'm a huge secondhand thrift shopper.
Ooh.
I'm addicted. And Billings has some amazing thrift stores.
Where's your go-to thrift stops?
Tell us. This is fun.
I like them all. Okay, so you got to get on Goodwill's email list.
Okay.
And they'll send you like 50% off coupons all the time.
For Goodwill?
For everything you purchase, 50% off. Yes. And then, of course, I love Family Services.
Yes.
They also have a coupon card you can get. And then the other one I love is Thrift in Action or Gratitude in Action.
Oh, yes.
I think I've heard of that.
They support
awesome.
sober living in, in
yes,
Billings.
yes.
Yes. And they do a cart sale where you can fill a grocery cart for like $35. It's amazing.
Wow.
That's
okay.
awesome.
So I have started making like thrift bundles for friends, and also I'll sell some stuff here on the side, like Poshmark or whatever, if I find like
A good
something
thing,
really, So it's been fun. My husband's like, "You're doing what I do, but with sheep, or what I do with sheep with clothing. Like if I
We
sell
all have
something
our
or whatever."
vices.
Yes.
Like, it's good.
But fast fashion, man, it's a pollution. Everyone comes after cows, right? And their farts is what's killing the earth. But in reality, there's so many other industries that could make some big changes. And one of them is the fashion industry. And
They can use more wool.
exactly. and it all goes to landfills. People are like, oh, doesn't thrift shopping take away from people that need to shop there? And I'm like, we're all shopping together. And a lot of that stuff doesn't get purchased, and it goes to a landfill eventually.
There's so much getting donated.
There's so much of it.
Because of the fast fashion.
If you ever just drive by Goodwill, like
mounds
of stuff.
I mean, anytime I drop something off, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
They're just like rolling carts in, and then you look in, and it's just like those yellow carts just stuffed full.
Yeah.
And they have to go through all of that.
Yeah. And I'm very selective with what I purchase at the thrift store too. Like I'm always looking at what fabrics it's made out of. So if it's like acrylic or
Good
any type of
brands
plastic, I'm like, nope. Or I'll see a cute shirt and then it says like Shein. I'm like, never mind. You're out of here.
No,
That's a fun
that
hobby.
would be fun.
Okay, think about this. I want to do like a girls' trip day
Okay.
where we get brunch and then we go to a thrift store. But here's the thing. Everybody writes down their like dream item that they're looking for.
Okay.
And then
I
if
love
somebody
that.
else finds it, you have to buy them a drink at your next stop. And then you stop and have cocktails somewhere. And then you go to another thrift store.
You
and-
sound fun.
Wouldn't that be so fun?
Yeah.
I want to do that so bad.
I will be there for your gals' day.
Okay, great.
I'd have to think about the item because it's funny. We were looking for like an old dial phone. And so I went to just one of the vintage stores downtown. I found a black one. It's not exactly the specific one I had in my head, but it's like the one I wanted. It's like green and I needed a black. But
Just
I feel like
spray paint it.
Goodwill, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's become an addiction of mine for sure.
That's
like all
really
of my
fun.
kids' clothes are secondhand or hand-me-down.
Well, they grow out of it so quickly.
I
yeah.
think there should
You
be
know?
like big swaps for kids because it always kills me a little bit when I get my like niece or nephew something and then they wear it once and
One
then I'm
time.
like, why didn't they wear it again? And my sister's like, oh, they've grown out of it, and I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Well, like rodeo shirts, they're like $40,
Yeah.
$50 for a toddler. And so I found some on Poshmark and I bought a couple and they were like $8, $10 or whatever. And one of them, this lady included a note that was like, it came from Texas, so it was starched. I was like, this is amazing. It's already starched. The lady wrote a note that was like, I hope your daughter enjoys wearing this. My niece grew out of it so fast. And I'm like, I love this.
that's
Like you can't
cute.
get that at the
Yeah.
store, you know?
I just probably got another use out of it.
Yeah. So when I find anything with wool, I get really excited, or just good brands, you know.
Lorene and I went to a thrift store in Livingston, and I found, I
fun.
can't even remember the name. I'll have to send it to
I
you.
heard there's a couple good ones over there.
This was a good one. I got a wool jacket.
A wool jacket.
And it's a company that's not even around anymore. And I paid a pretty penny for that jacket. And it was even under what it was listed on eBay for. And I was like, well, it's a good deal.
And you'll have it
warm.
forever.
Yeah, I'll have it forever. But it is a very warm. I have to
Yeah.
be like, the coldest days ever
Yeah.
are the days that I wear that jacket.
I have a
But
couple wool sweaters, one of which is a Duckworth, and I have to wear it on like negative degree days.
that's the
'cause
same
it's
thing
so
with this one.
hot.
I'm just like sitting there, I'm like,
I feel
nobody
like I
can
would
see,
enjoy
but
that.
yeah.
I have
But
to look up that company.
Yeah, they got good stuff.
one thing I want to ask is, being in this industry and being such a supporter of other entrepreneurs and women in ag businesses, what piece of advice would you give an individual that's looking to start selling an ag product?
Do it. See, and this is my husband and I talk about this stuff all the time. Like, we're so just, people like decompress by watching TV, and we sit down and we're like, how are we going to change the ag industry? Like, what are we going to do next? And we get to go speak at quite a few conferences. We meet a lot of young couples in ag that are like at a crossroads where they maybe want to do something different than their parents did, and their parents don't want them to, or they're first-time farmers and ranchers, and they honestly are like, what is the best opportunity for us to do? So my husband and I always sit down with like numbers, spreadsheets, like find your break even on things, figure out what you're capable to do for you. Don't necessarily look at what your neighbor's doing, because it may or may not actually be working for them. But
and you just might not know it.
Yeah, like network with people. We always have open door. We've had lots of people that we've spoken to at conferences come tour our place like a month or two later, because they're like, we want to learn more. Because sheep industry, it's easier to get into because a ewe is cheaper than a cow. You can start with small numbers and grow it relatively quickly. And it's just a great way to get into ag and to have something really forage on what land you have. A lot of times too, you can lease other people's places and put your sheep on it. You can do electric fencing, which is easy to keep them in if there's not permanent fencing. So, I always just say try it. But where we differ, my husband's always like, well, if you got the money, go big. Like if you get a bank loan or something like that, use it all, And I'm like, well, maybe start a little smaller. Like I started High Five Meats with one freezer at my in-laws' house. And he's like, no, just go rent the commercial freezer down the road. I'm like, let's just like dip our toes into this. So whenever we think of new venues, we kind of dip our toes into it to start. But I always say start small and grow from there. He's like, just go for it. But he also he's been in the ag industry his whole life. So he has like a tremendous amount of experience and knowledge on his side of things to know what he thinks is going to work and not work. But for new people that are scared to get into it, I also say network with other young couples that you see that are doing a good job at whatever they're doing. You're not necessarily going to mimic exactly what they're doing, but it could give you ideas for what would work for where you are. And it's all about your climate too and what you're able to grow. And
so I have a follow-up question to that. So knowing that you work together with your husband, I mean, there's, couples, husband-wife duos that have businesses together. What's that like for you? And what do you guys do to keep your relationship strong?
Yeah. It's hard.
Yeah, because
I mean, you work together every day. I was really excited to have the meat business because it was like my own thing. And he was always there to offer support, and he kind of always knew the general idea of what was going on. But for the most part, it was like my thing that I'd come to him if I had like, a certain situation I didn't know what to do. But for the most part, like he does his thing, I do my thing. We meet in the middle, we discuss things, but it's healthy for us, I think, to have our own venues going on, but they're still very closely related because it all circles back to the ranch. He's very good at selling like live animals and trading them. That's not my forte. So I go meet with chefs and be more personal with people in town and sell meat too. So it all comes together in harmony, and we like to discuss what each other are doing. But like, I don't know the intricate details of his daily ranch life and vice versa. And I think that kind of, it keeps it separate a little bit, but we're still very intertwined. So yeah, kids will go to bed and we'll sit in the office and talk about our day and whatnot. And sometimes I'm like, maybe we should like go on a date or something. My idea of a date is literally like driving out in the pasture and like checking on the animals. And it's that golden hour and seeing the horses. And I love that. You can't beat that. Plus,
pretty.
We have really good meat in our freezer to cook for dinner, so it's hard. And we don't live in town either.
Yeah, it is a jaunt.
So going out to dinner is like an hour drive somewhere. So it's got to be a really special night to go do that.
Go out to dinner.
Well, I love that. Yeah. And if you have High Five Meats in your freezer, might as well just stay home and cook them up.
And if you like to cook.
Yeah, we had to go to Laurel for something, and I was like, oh, we could go out to eat. And he's like, yeah, but everything you cook's always better. And I'm like, but I don't want to cook tonight, okay? Give me the night off, please. Like, I'll go eat a subpar pizza. I don't care.
Enjoy it.
Yes.
I'll enjoy it because I didn't make it.
And then I thought about it, and I was like, well, I did pull steaks out. This would be really good. Dang it.
I do that too. I'm like, I've already got meat pulled out, so that's what we're going to have.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Sure.
Before we end every episode, we like to do some rapid fire questions. So we're going to go ahead and do that. But first, we're going to hear a word from our sponsor.
Thank you to Big Sky Economic Development for supporting The Vault at 201 North Broadway. Big Sky Economic Development provides leadership and resources for business creation, expansion, retention, new business recruitment, and community development.
So, what is one of your go-to meals to cook at home?
Tacos
Awesome.
with ground
Can't
beef.
go wrong with tacos.
Hard or soft shell?
Hard if I'm at a restaurant. Soft when we're at home. But I do it like I fry them up a little bit.
Yeah.
So
So
they're not
kind
like
of
just
like-
straight out of the package.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Trevino's tortillas. Billy's
Yes.
tortillas.
Yes.
Very good.
So good.
I love the garden herb one.
Yum.
That's fun. Okay. Can you share your favorite thing about living on a ranch?
The quiet, the golden hour, the sunsets, the sunrises. One thing, I went past
You can
that.
give that. You can give a couple. That's totally fine.
Honestly, it's the quiet, for sure. Just the stillness. It's so nice.
It is nice.
I like that. I think I'd like that too.
Yeah, just walking outside and
The
there's.
sunrises, sunsets,
Yeah.
the animals. It's just
I mean,
so
the
different.
animals, yes.
I was raised on a farm, and I miss that.
Yeah.
That is golden.
And you don't realize it until
You don't have it.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like, I don't know, I've noticed as I've gotten older, because I'm from Ekalaka, so close to Baker, the more I'm like, God, I don't always love living in town. Like, it's convenient, but sometimes it's like you just miss, like, living out of town. It's quiet. It's just different.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
definitely has trade-offs for sure.
Especially the sunrise and the sunset. You just don't see them when you're in a city.
Yeah. And that's so often Henry's like, did you see the sunset? And I'm like, yeah, it looked like that last night too. It's great. I'm taking it for granted. I just look out the window. I'm like, oh, it's pretty.
You stop taking photos of them.
Yeah.
You're like, I've seen enough.
Well, and it never comes across as good as you want it, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just
the other
better
day I
than
went
that.
out for a run. It was like 5:30 in the morning and it was still and quiet. And it was the most beautiful sunrise I had seen in such a long time. And all I could think was, nobody else is getting to enjoy this like I am right now. Like, it was just, and there was sheep asleep still, right where the sun. It was like
Picturesque.
it was like a movie moment, and I'm
Yeah.
like, this is cool. And
You
I'm
get
just
to live
This is
that
my life.
I'm just gonna go run by you right now.
I'm not going to stop, take a photo. Okay, one last question.
Okay,
How do you start your day?
I work out in the morning,
All right.
I love it.
Start
and I
that
have
run.
to. And I will notice if I don't get my workout in the morning, I am like more easily agitated throughout the rest of the day, and I can pinpoint it to exactly not exerting energy in the morning.
Oh, okay.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
I got a little bike that I ride, or I go for runs in the summer, and
I love it.
it's changed my life.
That's awesome.
Highly recommend.
Good for you.
I'm like, God, this is what people were talking about for all those
It
years.
is the early morning gym or working out. Yep.
Gotta do it. It's amazing. Just for the anxiety, stress reduce aspect alone.
get out, do some things,
It's your me time.
get active.
Yeah.
This has been really fun to have you.
Thank you.
This has been a
Thanks
ton
for
of fun.
having me.
Where can people find your products to purchase, or how can they follow your story? Where can they hear more?
Yeah, I post most of our life updates on Instagram at Sara Sheep Lady. And then we sell a lot of our meat through the Yellowstone Valley Food Hub. We do a little bit direct to restaurants and wholesale as well. And then we also have a processing plant meat shop in Forsyth, Montana that also has a retail shop that you can pop into and purchase from as well.
And that's Cowboy
Meats.
Yep. Meats. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on.
For sure.
We were happy to have you. We're happy to hear more about your story and how you got to where you are today. And I guess I will just end this episode with eat more lamb.
That's right. Where wool, eat lamb.
Where wool, eat lamb. Love it. Thanks. Thank you for joining. You can find the resources and tools mentioned in today's episode at thevault201.com. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe and share with a friend.